He was not born mad. That is the thing the histories never say loudly enough. When Aerys Targaryen took the Iron Throne, the realm breathed a sigh of relief. The young king was handsome, generous, full of grand ideas. He spoke of building a new city. He spoke of conquering the Stepstones. He spoke of making the Seven Kingdoms a place the world would envy. He was 20 years old, and the future seemed golden. No one looked at him and saw the monster he would become. Welcome to Westeros Within, where we journey into forgotten ages, hidden legends, and ancient mysteries. This is Blood of the Dragon. Episode 16, Aerys Targaryen, When Charm Becomes Madness. Aerys came to the throne after the death of his father, Jaehaerys II. He had grown up alongside two men who would shape his reign, and who would be shaped by it in return. The first was Tywin Lannister. They had been friends since they were pages together. They had fought side by side in the War of the Ninepenny Kings, bleeding on the same beaches, sharing the same tents. Tywin was everything Aerys admired but could not be. Disciplined, strategic, cold when it mattered. When Aerys became king, there was never a question who would serve as hand. Tywin Lannister, the richest man in Westeros, the most capable administrator the realm had seen since Septon Barth. For 20 years, Tywin ran the kingdom. He filled the treasury. He crushed the Reynes and Tarbecks so thoroughly that a song was written about it. The Rains of Castamere, a melody that made lords fall silent at the dinner table. He enforced justice with efficiency and without mercy. And Aerys let him. In those early years, the king's ambitions were mostly harmless. Grand projects that never materialized. Lavish plans that Tywin quietly scaled down. The realm prospered, not because of Aerys, but because Tywin made sure the kingdom worked, while the king played at being a visionary. The second man was Steffon Baratheon, Aerys's cousin, his closest friend after Tywin. Steffon was warm where Tywin was cold, loyal where Tywin was calculating. He served as a bridge between the king's heart and his hand's head. But the golden years had cracks. Aerys had married his sister Rhaegar, not by choice. Theirs was a union arranged by their father after a prophecy from a woods witch who claimed the prince that was promised would come from their line. Rhaegar did not love Aerys. Aerys did not love Rhaegar. And as the years passed, Aerys's treatment of his wife grew cruel. He bedded other women openly. He forced himself on Rhaegar after every execution, aroused by the burning. The Kingsguard heard her screams through the chamber doors and were forbidden from entering. When Sir Jonathan Darry asked the Lord Commander why they did not intervene, Jaime, who was not yet a Kingsguard but would one day stand outside that door, was told a truth that would poison him forever. They were sworn to defend the king, not from himself. Rhaegar suffered in silence, pregnancy after pregnancy, stillbirth after stillbirth, dead children, malformed children, children who lived only hours. The dynasty that had once produced 13 heirs now struggled to produce one. Rhaegar survived, one son, silver-haired, melancholy, beautiful. From the moment he could read, he was drawn to the old texts. Something in a scroll changed him, his master said. The boy who had loved music and poetry put down his harp and picked up a sword. But that story comes later. For now, the kingdom belonged to Aerys and Tywin, and between them, the friendship was rotting. It began with envy. Aerys could not help noticing that the realm credited Tywin for every success. When lords spoke of the prosperous kingdom, they praised the hand, not the king. When debts were collected and justice was swift, it was Tywin's name on their lips. And then came the matter of Joanna, Tywin's wife. Joanna Lannister had served as one of Rhaegar's ladies-in-waiting before her marriage. She was beautiful, clever, and by several accounts, the only person who ever made Tywin Lannister smile. The whispers said Aerys had taken liberties with Joanna on her wedding night. The histories are deliberately vague about what happened. What is known is that Rhaegar dismissed Joanna from her service shortly after, and that Tywin's relationship with the king was never the same. When Joanna died giving birth to Tyrion, Aerys said something so cruel about the dwarf that it would have ended most friendships on the spot. Tywin endured. He always endured. He swallowed the insults and kept the kingdom running and waited for the day when his patience would be repaid. It never was. But the true breaking of Aerys did not come from Tywin or Joanna or any political intrigue. It came from a town no one remembers, on a day no one expected, Duskendale. Lord Denys Darklyn had asked the crown for a charter, trading rights that would have enriched his port. Tywin refused. Darklyn was offended, and in a desperate, reckless act that no one predicted, he seized the king. Aerys had ridden to Duskendale personally against Tywin's advice because he wanted to prove he could solve problems without his hand. He walked into Darklyn's hall expecting to negotiate. He walked into a cell instead. For 6 months, the King of the Seven Kingdoms was held prisoner in the Dun Fort. 6 months without sunlight. 6 months in chains. 6 months wondering if the army outside would burn the castle, and him with it, to end the crisis. Tywin considered exactly that. It was Barristan Selmy who ended it, alone. In the darkness before dawn, the greatest knight in the realm climbed the walls of Duskendale, fought his way through the garrison, found the king, and carried him out. Aerys was alive, but the man who emerged from that dungeon was not the man who had entered it. His nails had grown long, inches long, curling and yellow because he had become terrified that someone would come close enough to cut them and use the blade on his throat. His hair was matted and wild. His eyes darted. He flinched at sudden movements. He could not stand to be touched. The charm was gone. The grand plans were gone. What remained was fear. And fear, in a man with absolute power, becomes something far worse than madness. It becomes policy. The burnings began slowly. A lord here, a merchant there. Aerys discovered that fire fascinated him. The way the flames consumed a body, the way the screaming stopped, the way the smell lingered in the throne room for days. He found a new favourite, not a hand, not a knight, a eunuch from across the narrow sea named Varys, who whispered that enemies were everywhere, that plots grew in every shadow, that no one could be trusted. Aerys listened, Aerys believed, and the whispers fed the fire. Tywin watched it all and said nothing. For years more, he served. He watched the man he had fought beside become something unrecognisable. He watched his competence be mocked, his family be humiliated, and his counsel be ignored. And then Aerys took his son. He named Jaime Lannister, Tywin's golden heir, the pride of Casterly Rock, to the Kingsguard. A lifetime of celibacy and service. No marriage, no children, no inheriting the rock. It was framed as an honour. Everyone knew it was punishment. Tywin resigned as Hand that same day. He went home to Casterly Rock and did not return. And Aerys replaced him with lesser men, weaker men, men who would not question the fire. The court emptied of competence and filled with fear. The burning of a lord, the burning of a merchant, the burning of anyone who displeased the king, because the king was displeased by everything now. And in the shadows of the Red Keep, a silver-haired prince read his scrolls and gripped his sword and wondered if prophecy could save what madness was destroying. So tell me this, if you watched someone you knew lose their mind, slowly, year by year, burning by burning, and you had the power to stop it, would you? Or would you do what every lord in Westeros did and look away? Write it in the comments. And if you want to hear what happened next, when a prince crowned a wolf girl with winter roses, when a father burned alive inside his own armour while his son strangled himself trying to save him, and when a knight drove his sword through the back of the king he had sworn to protect, subscribe to Westeros Within and join me for the next chapter, because next time, everything burns. And the last words the Mad King ever spoke were 3: burn them all.